Okay, I'm too excited to wait for the kettle to finish boiling so I can talk to you all. I Happy Mabon, everyone. I decided that for the kind of autumn time around equinox and Samhain, I would watch a whole bunch of movies about witches, um, to celebrate the season of the witch. And I love crappy movies, actually. I think I prefer movies that are poorly acted because they're usually written by people that are not following a sort of marketing strategy. So you often have more interesting plot lines. I'm sorry about the shaking. Anyway, so I was going to post this whole rant on Facebook, and then I thought, oh, I could do a video, and then I could just ramble and torture you all with my meanderings as I go bushwhacking in my mind. Okay, so I had somehow formulated this complacent, smug opinion that most people were aware that paganism was like associated with Satanism kind of through propaganda of the church. I kind of thought most educated people knew this by now. I read the Mists of Avalon when I was 12, and I stupidly assumed that everyone read it because a lot of people that I knew had read it. But the thing is like a phone book, so people who are kind of casual readers probably wouldn't attempt it. And I mean, recently there's been stuff that came up about Zimmer Bradley that maybe, you know, discredited her or something. But anyway, the fact is that for me, like, she made, whether her research was completely accurate or not, I think that the thing about the church, making that conglomeration between paganism and Satanism was actually true. I don't think that Satanism existed before the church. And I kind of feel like people should be able to figure that out on their own. And also know that witches are older than Satanism. Therefore, you can't assume that witches are Satanists. Anyway, I have been watching a lot of these movies, and I noticed that kind of the majority of the ones that I've seen have portrayed witches as demonically possessed, mostly. And especially the older ones. The older kind of movies from the 70s, which I actually really like because it's a style of horror that appeals to me. It's a little bit slower, and they tried to make things a little bit spookier. There wasn't so much focus on jump scares or gore. But in that time, people tended to follow much more the prejudice that witches were devil worshippers. And I want to encourage everyone to think about it. Like, the whole point of witchcraft, and I mean, not the whole point, but like one of the most salient points of witchcraft and why people choose to become Wiccans or become pagans is the fact that they are dissatisfied with the patriarchy and the notion that they may be dissatisfied with the way Eve is portrayed in. I think all three Abrahamic religions have the story of Adam and Eve. I'm not, as the advent of mankind, I'm not really sure, but I should know what I'm talking about. But like, if you want to approach the divine through the feminine, then paganism is pretty much your best option. But what happens when paganism is linked in with Satanism is that once again, witches are relegated to being secondary. Their power is borrowed from Satan. They're not powerful in their own right. And to me, for a long time, even before I knew anything about religions, I thought that witches were just powerful because they were innately magical. And I noticed that this kind of Christian portrayal of witches definitely continuously seems to be hammering in this point that they have borrowed their power from Satan. They've made a pact with Satan. And I know that during the witch trials, that was very much um, the standpoint, and well, it was the excuse for why they were they were burning them. And I was just reading about the witch trials, that there were villages in Germany where there were no women left during the 1600s because they burned them all. Actually, interestingly enough, they hung quite a lot of them. But I always thought that's funny because, like, what they. I'm going to give you the Christian reasoning for why it should have been possible to kill a witch. If you yourself have no magic, you're just a normal person, maybe you're a man of God or whatever, you shouldn't really be able to execute someone who has supernatural powers very easily. But the excuse is that, first of all, they had God on their side, and second of all, supposedly burning fire was supposed to be good for removing evil, purifying thing. I mean, I don't know. There seem to be some inconsistencies because hell is full of fire, but anyway. Okay, so my debunking of that is, if you think about it, the symbol for witchcraft is the pentagram, and that is not a decorative symbol. It is symbolic of the 5 elements: earth, air, water, fire, and ether. Fire also. So witches are not afraid of fire, and they are supposed to, any witch worth her salt is supposed to have mastery of all 5 elements. That includes fire. So I think the only thing that might conceivably dampen a witch's power would be iron, because it's not on the list, and I think if the witches got their power from anywhere, if it is borrowed, it's probably from the fairies, and the fairies don't like iron. But I'm digressing. The second thing is hanging. But they never explain why hanging is supposed to be efficient for killing a witch. Hanging was come up with as a punishment for people to humiliate them. It was supposed to be this display, this example. So actually, it has nothing to do with combating the occult powers of a witch. It's actually just about discouraging other people from going down the road. So if you see it in that way, it's really quite a political method of execution. Oh yes, and while we're on the pentagram, so many of you, maybe none of you, I don't know, the pentagram is the symbol for witchcraft if there's a single point at the top. If there's 2 points at the top, like little horns, and a single point at the bottom, that is supposed to be the symbol for Satanism or devil worship. Interestingly enough, I have just discovered that this was not taught to me in school. The Mi'kmaq people of Eastern Canada and Maine in the US had a writing system. I was always told that the native people didn't have any writing, but they had a hieroglyphic writing system. And in that, the word for heaven is a satanic pentagram. And they have translated, many of them are Catholic, and they have translated the Lord's Prayer into Mi'kmaq, Algonquian. And so if you look at the Lord's Prayer, it's full of that pentagram, the inverted pentagram, just everywhere, all throughout the prayer, which I just find very amusing. And it's just a bit of trivia that I found amusing. So anyway, after watching the latest witch flick, which was The Wicked, they had some good stuff in there, like about the witch bottle, which I gather is a thing. I actually don't know, but then they were saying, oh, you can burn a witch. I don't think you can burn a witch, not a pagan witch. I think that witches are very at home with elemental things. I think that things that are problematic for witches would be more like, honestly, technology, commercialism, like all those really, really modern things that are kind of anti-magic, and especially metals. As far as I know, the metals that are both most useful for witchcraft are gold, silver, and copper, and iron is kind of not so great. conductor of magic, so to speak. And that was my bugaboo. I was going to write this long post on Facebook, and then I decided that I should just ramble like a crazy person with my red. I hung up this towel because I was sick of looking at those pink curtains, and so that's my makeshift backdrop for now. I'm not allowed to put holes in the wall in this apartment, which is why I have not made any kind of fancy board backdrop. And I don't want to buy one because then I'm going to have to dispose of it if I decide to move somewhere. So this is the look for now. And did I want to say anything else? I'm gonna shut off this video, and then I'm gonna remember like 3 million things that I thought of that were really important because I was just sitting at dinner and I didn't bring my phone with me, so I was in a reverie about witches. And I have to say that what inspired me to become a witch and what inspired me to study witchcraft was not anything to do with Satanism. In fact, I didn't even know that those things were associated. I thought, for me, it was the lure of feminine power and the idea that women could be leaders, and also elemental magic, and they're very liberated about sexual matters and informed also, like not just kind of blindly scared of it. And so it irks me when I see that they're still kind of sliding that fear almost under the radar that witches are enslaved to Satan. It's like witches would kick Satan in the balls. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's all I'm saying, and this is probably gonna get flagged now, so I'm gonna be like Kyla cursing at my videos. Love you, Kyla. Okay, bye for now.